I don't know about you, but I feel like I'm still trying to compute what we saw yesterday in the Rugby Championship between the All Blacks and the Springboks. What an unbelievable match and what an incredible final 20 minutes in that game. There has been so much fallout to it. I would imagine yesterday for South African fans, you spent the rest of the day feel like you were walking around on clouds, and from an All Blacks point of view, geez, but it was just one of the most jaw-dropping results I think we've seen in international rugby for a long, long time. It wasn't so much that South Africa won the game, despite the fact they haven't been playing well. We know how good this South African team are. You look at the team sheet, we've seen everything they've done previously with World Cups and unbeaten Northern Tours and #1 ranked team in the world. It wasn't the victory, it was the manner of the victory, I think. And in particular, the final 20 minutes were the stuff of dreams from a Bok point of view, in terms of the rugby they played, and the stuff of nightmares from an All Blacks point of view. That is the flip side to this. I thought the way in which the All Blacks fell apart a little bit in the final 20 minutes was pretty alarming. But welcome back to the channel. It was such a mega result. I thought I'd do another video on it today, morning here in the UK, where we've had a bit more time to process it and think about it, mention some of the things that I didn't actually able to get onto in the video I did immediately after the full-time whistle. Those videos can often be a bit of a scramble where I'm trying to get my thoughts fairly clear as possible in a short space of time. So I've had a bit more time to think about it, speak about some of the tries in more detail. But welcome back. What a result. Give me your views down below. Does anything stand out for you? Has anything changed about how you're kind of thinking or viewing this game, having had more time to process it? Give me your views. In particular, the importance of this result for this Springbok team. And it massively underlined, didn't it, why they're the back-to-back world champions and the quality that they have in this team. Because there was a lot of conversations, and I've had them on this channel, where I was looking at this Springbok team and kind of thinking, all right, where are they then? Because they hadn't been good in this Rugby Championship. The performances had not been of a good level overall, I don't think, particularly from the standards that they had set for themselves. The 2 games against Australia, yes, they won one of them, but they still didn't play that well. The performance at Eden Park, you know, I was kind of looking at this Springbok team and thinking they have been absolutely unbelievable. One of the greatest teams we've ever seen in the history of the sport. But are they reaching a point where they're having to develop? And maybe we'll see some of the older players come out of that team, and we're going to have to see new players come through and live up to the incredibly high standards that those other players have set. And then they go and do that. And it answers so much of those questions, so much of those criticisms. So maybe I was being premature with that. Maybe it was totally unfair. We'll wait and see in terms of what happens throughout the rest of the year. But I do feel like it was a really important result and performance for this team. Because, I don't know, it's a funny one, isn't it? Despite everything that they have achieved, how much of it would have been a concern internally? When you've been so successful, when you've kind of produced such great performances, and then all of a sudden it wasn't happening over a number of games, I wonder how concerned they would have been. And that sort of performance, just everyone calm down a second, lads. This is why we are one of the best teams, if not the best team in the world. It's why we're world champions, and it settles everything down. It's just an absolute statement to the rest of international rugby, isn't it? Right off the All Blacks at your peril. And I know that Tim over on Egg Chasers often describes the Springboks as a boa constrictor that just kind of squeeze their opposition slowly, slowly. And that was a little bit of what we saw at the weekend, I think, because the final 20 minutes just all of a sudden floodgates were open. It's really easy, actually, to forget that for an hour it was a really tight game. Up to an hour, the Springboks were leading 17-10. The Willemse try happened about 61 minutes. So it was the Willemse try, then Kwagga Smith, Snyman, Esterhuizen, bang, 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 bang. And you've got your greatest ever victory over the All Blacks. What do you reckon? Springbok fans, you can let me know in the comments section. Is this your greatest ever win? Maybe not total. Some of the World Cup wins are surely going to have to be those. But certainly against your biggest rivals, is this your greatest ever victory? Because it is one hell of a statement, one hell of a performance. I want to speak about the tries. In particular, I meant to mention this on the video I did at full time yesterday and forgot to, but a special mention to Cheslin Kolbe, because I think in big games, you need your big players to step up and have big moments. And that is exactly what he did for that intercept try, which levelled up the game in the first half. New Zealand did end up taking the lead again to go 10-7 up before half-time. But South Africa had started the game pretty well, hadn't they? They had the try chalked off for the very slight knock-on by Reinach early on, near the start of the game. Then New Zealand responded pretty well. And South Africa were in this position where New Zealand was 7 up, and were pushing, trying to get another score, and they looked like they were about to break down the left, and Cheslin Colby goes for the intercept, which is such a high-risk play, isn't it? That is so easy for that situation to end up being a deliberate knock-on, yellow card, sometimes penalty try. I don't think that would have been, because they did have cover on the outside. But it is a big, high-risk play. He went for it, he executed it, and he's scoring a try at the other end to level the game up. He is such a big game player. He's one of my favourite players in the world, Cheslin Colby. He's just arguably the most all-round rugby player on the planet. He's unbelievable, and that was a huge moment. I think a really pivotal moment. I know a lot of the focus is going to be the incredible final 20 minutes, but earlier on in the game, that was absolutely pivotal for the Boks. And let's not forget the second try they scored as well, because the feet from Colby started the second half, dancing back in field, just a beautiful sight when he is stepping off that right peg near the touchline, cutting back inside and giving them the lead once again. So I thought he was very, very good. After that, though, as well, the quality of the tries we score. I spoke about the All Blacks try. I thought the Leroy Carter try probably won't be remembered in the same way now. It was an unbelievable try from the All Blacks, an unbelievable team try. The finish for Carter was pretty straightforward, but it's an incredible team try. But then we saw similar from South Africa. I mean, they scored in all sorts of different ways. The Willemse try, which really started to stretch the lead and open those floodgates. If you go back and watch it, the pass from Libbok to Willemse is actually pretty bad. It's kind of behind him, it halts his momentum, he's about 10 metres from the try line. Almost has no right to score, head down, tries to get on the outside shoulder, leg drive over the line. Really good, underrated finish actually, I think, in that moment from Willemse. The Quagga Smith try was the Springboks' own amazing team try, which ends up with the crossfield to Peter Steff, who was probably tackled in the air, gets the offload off the deck to Quagga Smith to finish. And then Snyman and Esterhuizen, those tries were almost like when you've just absolutely got your opponent beat, all kind of resistance, the morale had gone from the All Blacks, and you're just loving it by that point. The line for Snyman to go through, Esterhuizen late on, bumping off Beauden Barrett, who at that point in the game, probably the last thing he wanted to do was try and put in a try-saving tackle on Andre Esterhuizen 5 metres from the try line. Just an incredible, incredible final 20 minutes. But there is a point here, which I think is worth mentioning. The focus here rightly is going to be on the Springboks. They were sensational. There is a point worth emphasising, I think, of the final 20 minutes for the All Blacks. Now, I'm not going to be too down on the All Blacks. I still think they are a very, very good team. I think they're developing. I think they have some inconsistencies, and we probably saw that in moments. But I think what would be a real frustration and cause for concern, I think where they could rightly be criticised, is the final 20 minutes. And there's always two things going on here. On the one hand, it was the Springboks being absolutely sensational. The level of rugby they played and they achieved was of a standard we haven't seen them get to for a long, long time. The other side of that, I think, is the way in which the All Blacks faded. They absolutely fell apart in the final 20 minutes. That has to be something that they're going to look at and review, because if you want to be a team that is all conquering, if you want to be the best team in the world, which I know there was some conversation saying if they were to beat the Springboks again yesterday, doing it back to back, they've beaten France recently, they've beaten Ireland, they would be the number one team in the world. I think clearly the Boks have underlined why they should still be considered the number one team in the world. But for New Zealand, if you want to be that, you can't have 20 minutes like that. You will sometimes lose games. You will sometimes come up against sides that play better than you. But to get absolutely blitzed and blown away in the manner that they did at home in Wellington, I think is a bit of a cause for concern for them. Let's see how they respond. And can South Africa back it up? We have seen now from the Springboks how good they can be. I mean, that was the best 80-minute performance we've seen them put in for a long, long time. Don't forget the first 20 minutes against Australia at Ellis Park was incredible when they led, 22-0 or whatever it was. But they have been inconsistent. It was the best 80 minutes we've seen them put in for a long, long time. Let's hope that they now, I guess maybe, as we said earlier, it gives them that boost of confidence that they now go into the rest of the Rugby Championship, the rest of the year, when they come up here for November, they find that level of consistency that perhaps has been missing up to this point in their season. What an unbelievable game. The Rugby Championship, hey? Every single side played for, won 2, lost 2. It's so up for grabs. It is the best Rugby Championship we've ever seen up to this point, without question, I think. It's so even. I definitely think as well there is a wider point, which I'll maybe speak about in more detail as the weeks go on the channel, that international rugby to me feels more even than it perhaps has ever been. I think all the top sides are capable of beating each other on their day, which is really, really exciting, but it does mean that who are the top dogs? For me, off the back of yesterday, it still has to be the Springboks. I really appreciate you watching the video. Do give it a thumbs up just to give it a boost and get it to as much of all the rugby fans on YouTube as we can, and hit that subscribe button. Subscribe to the channel, don't miss a thing, and I'll see you in the next one.